What's movie that you've seen that's so traumatic and disturbing that it ruined your month or year or even till this day? Awesome. 2003. An Afghan film about a girl whose mother and grandmother dress her up as a boy so she can go out and work in Taliban ruled Afghanistan. An absolutely heartbreaking and tragic film. It has made me infinitely more thankful for my life. There's a book about something similar in Afghanistan too, called Samira and Sami. Beautiful book, but heartbreaking. Dance Peak 1997. That scene when the grandma jumps out of the stranded boat into the sulfur lake to drag it to shore in order to save her grandkids. I haven't seen this movie in 15 plus years, and I still remember that scene vividly. It sticks with you. I saw it as a kid and that's the only scene I remember. Same. I had no idea what the movie was called until I happened across this comment. It was her fault they were there in the first place. For the stid or those too lazy to look. The Grave of the Fireflies. Thought I was sitting down to watch a cheerful Miyazaki film. Bawled my eyes out for an hour afterwards and couldn't shake it for at least a week. Too bad you got misled. Because Hayao Miyazaki didn't direct this movie. Came here for this. I will never watch that one again. No need for emotional upheaval like that. Was going to post this as well. Hated this movie. I was depressed for a long time after watching it. The Little Sister and the Rocks. Super sad movie for sure. Based on a story by Akiyuki Nosaka. I definitely teared up more than once. I normally enjoy horror movies and don't really get freaked out by many things. But for some reason Harari was very unsettling for me. Definitely had me kind of weirded out for about a week. Close runner-up, Splice. I saw Harari in theaters. I'm a big horror fan. There's not much that bothers me, but that movie, that one is still awful to think about. A lot of online horror forums I'm on are completely divided on it. I think it's such a good movie. Can't bring myself to watch it again. I thought it was absolutely horrific, but then it turned into a standard horror movie and kind of negated the overall impact. That's an interesting take. If I were brave enough to put myself through it again, I might come to the same conclusion. All the movies in the late 70s or early 80s that featured scenes of nuclear war ruined my sleep for many months. We had do a speech when I was in HS during the early 80s. I chose thermonuclear war. I pointed out the local targets, the blast radius, and fallout zones. I had a nice map with the UR arrow and a survivability index with information about radiation burns and long-term side effects if you lived. I had half the girls and a few of the guys in class crying. I was not popular that day. I was terrified of nuclear war growing up. I remember seeing airplanes in the air and thinking they were nuclear missiles and getting scared. There was a Twilight Zone episode where these two guys get stuck in a shelter. That one scared me. There were a few of those shows that just got me. Dear Zachary, a letter to a son about his father. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It's a great documentary, but it'll destroy you. Yeah, this movie destroyed me. I cry pretty easily I would say, but this was a different uncontrollable sobbing that came out of me. Me too. I think I cried for an hour after it ended. It made me so sad. Same here. Many refer to it as the movie you need to see once, then never watch again. Such an important story. This movie shocked me so much. I was sitting there bawling forever. This was one of the most disturbing, sad things I've ever watched. Just heartbreaking on so many levels, and infuriating on just as many more. The boy in striped pajamas messed with me for a few days. Not so good at spelling. Boys in striped pajamas are upsetting. Striped pajamas, on the other hand. In 7th grade, we watched The Boy in Striped Pajamas, and I was horror-struck. Sorry about spoilers, but I believe it's on Netflix, but I was saddened because the boys die at the end while trying to find the Jewish kid's father. Others in my class were not so freaked out. Same with 5 Feet Apart, loved it, deeply showed the boundaries an illness could have on you. This all happened so many years ago, but I remember it so clearly. They showed this to my daughter's 5th grade class a few weeks ago. Didn't tell the parents beforehand. I wasn't happy. Then this week I get a permission slip because they are showing Tuck Everlasting and it has a kissing scene. SMH spelling. Arachnophobia. Never turn on a lamp without fear. My two older brothers sat me down and made me watch this when I was like 7. It was scarring. Yes, I nearly forgot about this movie. I only think about it every time I turn on a lamp, put on my shoes, sit on the toilet, and eat popcorn. Requiem for a Dream. Solid story, great actors doing great work, solid cinematography, tight-eyeing, amazing soundtrack that gets reused over and over, just a really well-made piece of film. That is deeply, horribly upsetting. It starts in a sad but not terrible way and the bottom just keeps dropping out, worse and worse and worse. Saw it in the theater, and when the film ended, and the house lights came up, it was totally silent, until the guy next to me said I feel like I've been violated. Nervous, understanding laughter followed. It's a brilliant film to watch. Once. My mom was watching this at home one day, when I had a friend over. We sat on the couch, and watched it with her. We were 12. Why only once? Everything you said is why I watch that movie on a semi-annual basis. Yes, it will stay with me forever. The electric shock therapy on the mom kept repeating in my head after I saw it. Pee-wee's Big Adventure Large Marge haunted my dreams for years. I rewatched Avatar and Korra last year, and when I finished my roommates made we watch The Last Airbender movie because I had never seen it before. I literally just rewatched the series, and I still couldn't follow the plot. I don't understood why they mispronounced every single character's name. I was traumatized at how they could take such great source material and make it so bad. What movie? There was never a movie. The Earth King has invited you to Lake Laogai. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. There was no movie made. What are you talking about? Not disturbing but a Chico. It was torturously sad, and I don't enjoy sad movies. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Too much relates to the main character. The book is so much worse. Very good, but you know. The book tears you to shreds. One of the only books to this day that made me cry openly in public. I used to love that movie until I understood Charlie a little better. To clarify, I'm perfectly fine, just went through a rough spot in life, but I still don't think I could watch the entirety of the movie again yet. Until I understood Charlie a little better, meaning? Sorry to hear you relate to him. It's a brilliant book and movie, but yeah, must be hard to watch if you have been through something similar. The Fourth Kind was pretty intense. I remember being a teen watching it on cable, thinking it was all real. I was spooked. I got full on anxiety both times I watched it, and I couldn't sleep for days afterwards. I'm glad to hear it's fake, but I still won't revisit it anytime soon. The Road. It's bleak and filled with despair. Her 2013. It scares me because I can see a future where people fall in love with AI. If it's true AI general intelligence, why is it scary? I mean, have you ever watched pretty much every science fiction movie ever where machines learn to the point where they think humans are irrelevant and decide they must be destroyed? That's pretty scary. Yeah, but the logic in those has seemed pretty flimsy, and I've read tons of sci-fi where AI is not inherently evil. Outside of that, self-preservation is pretty innate to any being that wants to survive, and working together for survival, where possible, especially when there isn't resource scarcity, seems to be the most likely trend. Great movie, but depressing as hell. Leaving Las Vegas. One of the very few movies that show the actual nature of alcohol withdrawal. Great film. When she buys him the hip flask. Not disturbing, but traumatic. A Dog's Purpose. I cannot handle that many dog deaths. I'm still sad about this movie. Haven't watched it, but same with Marley and Me. I happened to be unfortunate enough to watch that after my childhood dog, who was living with me at my own place as an adult for his last year or so, died. I had to bring him to the vet and had to have him put down alone. It was a traumatic thing for me. And then someone wanted to watch Marley and Me a day or so later. Cried a lot. I can't watch movies with dog deaths. DoesTheDogD.com is a great website to check if a movie has an animal death or other potential triggers such as suicide, self-harm, drug alcohol addiction, etc. in it. Yes, I've heard of it and used it, lol. Kerfuffle. Since the comments a user submitted, there's unmarked spoilers for unrelated things up there. The mist sending absolutely destroyed me. I pretty much sat in silence for about 30 minutes after finishing it. Dominion. It's a documentary about the animal agriculture industry. Seeing the horror of what really happens to millions of animals in factory farms is life-changing. I went vegan because of that movie and because of other documentaries and videos like it, and I'll never go back. Bone tomahawk. Let's just say there is a scene where they scalp a guy, stuff it in his mouth, and then tip him over and use a tomahawk to split him in half from his crotch down. It still traumatizes me to this day. That was a weird movie. I loved it. I finally saw that movie. Everyone talks about that scene, so I took great pains not to spoil it before I watched it. When I finished the movie, I was still waiting for that scene and I realized it already passed it. I guess I'm just that desensitized. Haven't seen it mentioned yet, but Requiem for a Dream is near the top of the list for me. Every time I hear that haunting music I just get chills. Wind River was deeply disturbed by the scene that reveals how the couple were killed. Saw the movie years ago and it still bothers me from time to time. The truly tragic part is that Native American Aboriginal women going missing and getting killed is a real thing in Canada and USA. Jeepers Creepers, when I was a kid messed me up bad. The real monster was the director of that movie. Surprised no one said this, but the massacre scene in Watership Down messed me up for a couple nights. My mom didn't realize the movie about bunnies wasn't meant for small children. The Hills Have Eyes. I still haven't finished it. An American Crime, a true story. Gertrude Banaszewski, a divorced mother of several children, agrees to take care of two girls, Sylvia, Ellen Page and Jenny, while their parents travel with a carnival. Gertrude imprisons the girl in the basement and tortures her, eventually encouraging her children to follow suit. Sounds like The Girl Next Door, also released in 2007. At least it was based on a novel, and not a true story, but it was horrifying. The Girl Next Door, a slightly fictionalized account of the same story, based on the book by crime author Jack Ketchum, is similarly disturbing, and it's actually tame compared to the true story. It's a very emotional movie, since it's largely from the point of view of a neighbor who likes the girl, and does nothing to help her, or feels powerless to. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I've never heard of this. I assume it's a non-canon rip-off that was a money grab and only used people that looked eerily similar to the original actors, as well as scenes that rip off the trilogy whilst jumping the shark in some explosively awful manner. In the theater after the fridge blew up, I told myself, okay, I'm starting the movie over from here, because there was no way I could enjoy it otherwise. It's not very good, but if you start after that scene, it is tolerable. When the Wind Blows. Illustrated by Raymond Briggs, the same guy who did The Snowman, so it seems quite naively childlike, but it's essentially just a film about an elderly British couple slowly dying of radiation poisoning after a nuclear bomb is dropped in the UK. Really dark, and thinking about it makes me think about just how utterly incomprehensibly horrifying the prospect of nuclear war is. Honestly sends me into a spin. It's the only film I have vowed never to watch again. Soul destroying. Around the same time, I saw Threads. Lead up and aftermath of nuclear war on the inhabitants of Sheffield. Grim. We read this in early high school. The cute little illustrated comic. Traumatizing. Schindler's List. The scene where the girl in the red jacket is dead in the wheelbarrow. That had me messed up for days on end. You've Got Mail. I still have nightmares. Not the caviar. Not the caviar. He's scooping it all up. That monster. Signs. I kept walking out of my room and thinking there's going to be an alien standing in my living room. Room 2015. I watched that movie and was like, this is sad. Then I watched Captain Marvel in theaters and I remember Brie Larson being in that movie and all of the sadness from that movie suddenly hit me. I fell into a hard depression for a while. Freddy Got Fingered. Terrible movie. Okay, not a movie, but Happy Tree Friends. I'm super scared of getting pushed into stuff. Since I saw it as a kid, it's still stuck in my head. Send help. Tetsuo the Iron Man. The dude drilled his girlfriend. I saw Requiem for a Dream when I was 12, and it was definitely too heavy for me then. and I never wanted to watch it again, but not because I was scared by the movie, but mostly because I thought I'd lose the impression the movie left on me. Disturbing. Requiem of a Dream. Traumatic. Dancer in the Dark. It will FSCK you up. Oh, Dancer in the Dark. I felt like I should go sit in my closet with a blanket after watching that film. Tusk. I will never be the same. Weirdest movie I've ever seen in my life. It's called Two Girls One Cup. It's good stuff until the stuff actually comes out. Just when you think you've purged it from memory, along comes someone to remind you, you sir or madam are a special kind of evil. I posted it in a similar thread last week, but that episode of Band of Brothers, where they liberate the concentration camp. After posting in that thread, I went back and linked the specific scene I was talking about. Between rewatching that clip and reading the comments on both Reddit and YouTube, I started crying and felt nauseous for the rest of the night. Sorry you had to experience that.